it seems that news of the first expansion coming to New World is right around the corner. So let's talk about prediction, rumours and leaks and whatever we can show you that actually sort of backs that up. Let's bring the receipts, let's get into it. The people who watch my stream will be all too familiar with this and these stupid sunglasses that we call Big Bad J. However, basically, I look at this expansion and I look at what is listed here, and I've been saying on my stream that I think there's more to it than what is here. And today, I'm going to show you why. And I'm also going to show you what I think should be on that. And the most important bit is a level increase, 2 new zones, and some PvP content. Okay, it may actually only be 1 new zone, and when I say new zone, I mean in addition to the zone transformed. And the level increase, well, we'll talk about that right now. And anybody who doesn't believe me is a no cope filled jabroni on that jabronium, okay? That's not true, but that's just the meme from the stream. Yeah, I'll take these off now. But let's start with the big one. Let's start with the level increase. Exhibit A for the level increase is right above my head. In the Forged in Eternum videos and the screenshots where they're actually talking about transmog, you can quite clearly see here that this character is level 60 and has a rested XP bar. That is not in the game as of right now. Like if you're level 60, you don't see that. For me, that's a huge hint that a level increase is coming. I know some people don't believe it, but I firmly now believe it. If you wanted a little closer look at that, then this is actually from the video itself. And yeah, that's an indication that a level increase is coming to me. There's also other things though that hint at a level increase in my opinion. Now some of this next bit you could actually say, oh, that's probably just the gear score increase. However, I personally think we're going to gear score 700. I have a feeling that 650 was probably planned earlier in the normal release, but they sort of ditched it, probably because of a bad reaction to when they introduced mutations. But there's 2 things that I want to talk about. First, the faction vendor. Apart from the fact that I need to spend my tokens, when we look at the rewards, I think it was Dave, it might have been Kate, I'm not 100% sure. But one of the devs said, we're going to probably get a new tier of this. So there'll be an extra tier. Now, whilst technically you could explain the extra tier by just being an increase in gear score. Like you could say, well, if we're going to go up to 700, then this could very easily just be a version of this at 680. You know, that is possible. But for me, this is just another evidence that I think they're planning a level increase. By the way, quick little note, if you are trying to buy these like mystery caches, the green ones are a very good value simply because they cost next to no gold. So if you've got an excess of tokens, buy the green ones. That's pretty much what I'm doing every day. And another thing when it comes to something that could be explained by just gear score is the fact that when we have a look at the attributes, they basically said that we are going to go beyond this level 300 and we're going to get another tier. I'm assuming that's at 350. Now again, you could say if we get 700 gear score, maybe that's an extra, maybe like 40 points or whatever. Maybe that's all they're assuming. But in my head, I take that as a hint to be, well, it's probably a level increase. Whilst not conclusive, I do think we're heading to a level increase. I think the reason you actually wouldn't put it on the roadmap like I have now is if you did put it on the roadmap when this was launched, I think maybe like in February or January or something like that, then people would have known instantly that a level increase basically resulted in a gear reset. People were very annoyed at the idea of the gear reset when we found that out, and if you would have put a level increase, people would have put 2 and 2 together. So it's not that your gear is getting reset. You're going to use your gear to get up in levels. That's what we got when we had the answer when it came to the gear score increase, when they said, well, you need new gear. They're like, yeah, you are going to need new gear, but your old stuff's not going away. You use your current gear to get your next set of gear. Now there is a key question here that we don't know the answer to, is what level are we going to? My instinct would be 70. That's just typically what happens in the games that I've played. However, I think games like World of Warcraft, they did change it from being like a 10 level gap to like a 5 level gap. So I could see 65. And apparently, and I haven't actually seen this myself, there is stuff in the coding that sort of suggests 65 as the number. However, that could simply just be, you know, when the next tier of camp is unlocked or something like that. Obviously, I don't know. But I did initially think it would definitely be 70. However, I'm now thinking more and more that it might be 65. And the next most interesting bit on here probably for you guys is the 2 new zones. Now I'm predicting that in addition to a zone transformed. Now the reason I'm predicting that basically is because of this level increase, and actually I think it might just be First Light plus one other. The 2 new zones is just sort of the most coped up take that I could think of. Don't make me bring out the sunglasses, right? But why do I think there's going to be new zones? Of course, if we think we're getting a level increase, then I think just having First Light is a little bit sad. That's the first and foremost like thing I like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. Sure, in Brimstone we were all like clumped up in one area. However, I think for the expansion it would make sense to spread us out a little bit more. And why do I say 2 new zones specifically? We have stuff like this, which was a data mine from quite a while back. I think actually pre-Brimstone this, and they were sort of effectively data mining Brimstone, but in the same time they actually data mined Dunwood, the settlement that's just sort of to the southwest of Brimstone, and there's one above Morningdale. Now it might be that maybe First Light's getting reworked and we're only going to get one of these, and then maybe the next one will be in a year's time or something like that. Obviously, I don't know. But for me, I think we're going to get more than just First Light. And I think these are the two possible zones that would make sense. And the reason I think we're getting more zones is also because of mounts. We know mounts are coming in the expansion. And there's a question here from this interview, which was from WCCF Tech. And the question is, are mounts on the table for the future, or are you strongly against that? I think right now our world isn't of the size that warrants mounts. When we do get there with the live game, that's going to happen at some point. We'll add mounts when we feel players will benefit from them, and we can do them in a real cool way that works for us. So what does he say here? Basically, when the map's big enough, you'll get mounts. And yes, while we've had Brimstone Sands, which was bigger than a normal zone, I don't think it would make sense for you to introduce mounts when all you are introducing is one zone that is actually transformed. You're not actually making the map bigger unless somehow First Light, gets much, much bigger, which I sort of doubt. So for me, there's logic here that says, okay, we're probably getting a level increase. That then probably means you need more than one zone. Actually, we're also getting something else that is the mounts that also implies that there will be more than one zone, because they said when the map gets bigger, they'll do it. And if they're not actually making the map bigger, then what is the point of them doing it? The only thing we've had since launch in terms of size like that is Brimstone. It would make a lot of sense if you're introducing mounts, a rework zone, and then 2 new zones. For me, that does make sense. So the predictions so far, probably gear score 700. A level increase that is either 65 or 70. Personally, I'm thinking we're going to get First Light plus at least 1 new zone. Randomly, we'll just add this in here. I know that Dukesoft does a video on it. I think the expansion is going to be paid. I think if you make it paid, it's going to get people's attention. I think if you make it free, a lot of people will just think it's another Brimstone Sands. Yes, there is an argument saying, well, we want people back, but I think you don't want to set the precedent of saying all our expansions will be free, because I think you're just asking for trouble down the road. Plus, it's going to be literally millions of dollars that they leave on the table if they do not charge for it. So I think it's going to be paid. Some people don't. There's no right or wrong answer until we find out. Right now, it's just an opinion. However, what is not an opinion is this one here, the PvP content. Now, I don't know what guise this is going to take. Some people sort of think that in the top right, that one of those is Outpost Rush and the second one is another Outpost Rush. That could be true. But actually, I want to draw your attention to this statement here in this question that was from the May Fortune Eternum Q&A. However, it was in the discussion belowhand, not in the video itself. And they said, what's the plan for First Light once it's closed? And they're like, well, you're not going to be able to claim First Light, you're not going to be able to get in, fine. However, in Season 3, along with the influence changes that are in development, we have a surprise for you that we have not shared yet, which directly relates to your question. Maybe you can guess. Now, my instant guess there was PvP zone. However, we know it's PvP content pretty much because it's talking about territory control. I wouldn't be surprised if First Light maybe has like PvP islands or something. That's coming to Throne of Liberty, and I sort of feel like that they might borrow that. I mean, it's also been in other games. I'm not claiming Throne of Liberty is the first one that's ever done it. I don't think the whole of First Light will be a PvP zone. I'm not sure they'll do that. By the way, First Light appears to be called Elysium Wilderness, because if you go into a foreign language, you can see it. And it's sort of a variation of that, sometimes called Elysium Wildlands or Wilderness. We don't know what it's going to be in English, okay? Anyway, there'll be some kind of PvP content. I don't know what it is. Now, one thing that is almost guaranteed at this point is that the new weapon is going to be the flail. Of course, if you actually were in a foreign language, like we said with the Elysium Wilderness, you could see that sometimes it would say, le flail, le flail. So it's very, very likely that to be the flail. There's a streamer, and I'll not actually say their name, who said something along the lines is, the flail is going to be much better than you think, and that it feels great. Now, when I asked this streamer about, can they clarify that, they said it was just speculations. And I said, understood. Either way, the flail is definitely happening. We'll see how it is. Now, there's obviously other things that we have no idea about. For example, if we are getting a level increase, does that mean we're going to get an extra tier of gear? Are we going to get not orange, but like some people are suggesting deep red or something like that? I've said personally that I think it is also going to mean a increase in tier. For example, you know how gear right now is like tier 5? I think it will mean we're going to tier 6. I think that will also mean that you're going to need new tools and stuff like that. New bags, new everything basically. I actually think that the tools will make it so that tier 5 mats go down in cost, Because I think the way that it'll work is that they'll probably keep what they've got. They'll have tier 5 going to tier 6 materials, and then those tier 6 you'll have like a daily cooldown, which I think will go weekly as they have done with the gypsum orbs. I think effectively it's going to be a reset. The one thing that I'm suggesting that people get as much of right now is gold. Farm your way there, sell all your materials. Well, maybe don't sell all your materials, but materials are a gamble, whereas gold is as good as gold. People want to actually make me call that coin, and you know what, I just refuse. It's gold, it'll always be gold. Now there's one question that we don't know the answer to, and that is, when are we going to get news of this? Now I'm very much aware that I predicted we would get a trailer at Summer Games Fest, and you know what? I was very, very wrong. And the reason I'm making this video is that I think we're going to be getting news around the corner. I think we're going to get news around the corner because I think we're getting the Q&A from the devs next week, which is being recorded this Thursday, and that's going to be about the expansion. We have a discussion tomorrow in tomorrow's Forged in Eternum where they're talking about the removal of Warden Bane. I think that's going to be the start of like, hey, here's a little bit of info about the gearing in the expansion. I don't necessarily think that this Gamescom will get a trailer, even though Jeff and Scott, they've had like discussions at Gamescom previously. I'm not convinced. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to stream this because it's a very good evening time for me. You can see the times here if you want to watch along. You can come follow me on Twitch in the link in the description, by the way. We'll be sat there on Twitch watching this, getting hyped and possibly disappointed. But either way, even if we don't get it here, I think we are getting expansion news, and I think it is right around the corner. In theory, if we don't have any delays, the expansion is about 43 days away. Yes, I think Season 3 and the expansion are together. They said that the perk rework was going to come at the same time as the gear score increase to minimize disruption. And as you can see, one of those is in Season 3 and the other one was in the expansion. So I think it's the same time. When they talk about the expansion, they're actually sometimes calling it Season 3, I think. So for me, they're going to be at the same time. And I think it's supposed to be 43 days away, which would put a PTR soon. Now, personally, I hope they don't actually do a PTR. I'd rather we have like a beta weekend or something. However, Amazon and New World could not afford any major issues because of what we had at launch. So I think we probably should get a PTR, and it's probably going to be a long one. I'm actually predicting that the full expansion will be revealed on the 29th with a PTR on the 31st, which will then probably get delayed to the 1st and probably very late night on the Friday because I have to attend a wedding on the Saturday and I can't get out of it. So that's my prediction, not just because it'll hurt me, but actually I think it makes sense. Hopefully I'm wrong. So either way, we're getting news soon, but the core of the prediction is relatively simple. A gear score increase and probably more than one zone, more than just the first light rework. That's my personal prediction. I could be wrong. I also think it's going to be a paid expansion. I know some people are going to complain about it, but I think that just makes sense. I do think the flail will be very good. There's no reason to think it won't be, both actually in terms of how it looks and in how it plays. Generally, all the weapons that they release tend to be overpowered at first, and that makes sense because they want people to be hyped about it. I think like gear score 700, I think an extra tier, I think that all of that just makes too much sense at this point. And AGS at this point have actually put it in a video where they have a rested XP bar above 60. Like, is that not a hint? For me, that's a huge hint. I think it's time to hashtag believe and get on the copium. And everybody else, if you don't believe, then you're just a no cope filled jabroni on the jabronium, okay? It's much better when I do this on Twitch because I actually feel like not a weirdo just in my room recording. When there's people on Twitch, I sort of, you know, I can see the chat and stuff. Now it's just weird. Big shout out to my YouTube members, and if you do actually want to come and watch me on Twitch, I should be live pretty much as this video goes live, so come and talk to me about what I've just spoke about. Do you agree with me? Are you in the hashtag hopium copium, or are you more in the hashtag nopium? Hopefully we'll find out soon either way. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.